policy reacts to Nigeria's exit from economic recession.
Experts call for better facilities as Nigeria marks International Day of Spinal Cord Injury.
And Craft Expo on the way in Abuja.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we will examine food security in Nigeria, plus a review of the 2018 World Cup qualifiers.
There's no gainsaying the fact that food remains the most vital necessity of human life, and hence it becomes an instrument of national power.
Little wonder that countries around the world make considerable efforts in terms of policies that will help increase their food production capacity as well as food security ultimately.
Now, over the years, the issue of food security has been on the front burner of major discourse in the country for as long as you can remember, and as such has become a priority of the Nigerian government.
The contract blessing of various agricultural policies have been formulated by previous administrations, and those policies were aimed at ensuring self-sufficiency in food production. And just to reel off some of those policies, we had the Farm Settlement Scheme, the National Accelerated Food Production Program, Operation Feed the Nation, that's the OFN. Then they had also the River Basin Rural Development Projects, the Green Revolution of the Second Republic, as well as Agricultural Development Project, plus the establishment during the administration or the regime of General Ibrahim Babangida of the Directorate of Food Routes and Rural Infrastructure. That's different.
Because Kingsley, as part of effort to ensure food security, the federal government unveiled a 10-year agricultural sector food security and nutrition plan to actually look into setting up a presidential task force to check the high cost of food, which contributes to food insecurity.
All right, Blessing, you know that the last set of figures that were given with regard to inflation in the country, they'd say, all right, inflation might climb down to some 16-point-something%, but the food component of the inflationary pressure still remained high. Now, according to a global report on the food crisis of 2017, more than 8 million Nigerians, as it were, are facing food challenges, with most of them from the northern part of the country. And you can be certain that's from the northeast part where you've had
the issue of insurgency, which set most farmers. Well, the report also indicates that food crises were fueled by conflicts recording high food prices and also abnormal weather patterns caused by climate change impacts, or known as El Nino, and also some other issues that from environment to all the man-made causes.
Social conflict is also a at least in the middle belt and also down south. But the good news is that there are reports of bumper harvests in parts of the country which go to show that there's an improvement in the food security in the country.
But how will the recent flooding affect the envisaged bumper harvest, and how will it affect food security in the country? Because we've experienced floods in parts of the Middle Belt, that's Benue, and some other parts, Niger, close by here, as well as other parts of the country. Now, is this what is to be done if we ask us now to ensure consistency in food security in the country? Well, those are some of the questions, as many that will be coming on your mind when we start off our discussion, and much later we hope to attempt to answer them with the expert. My name is Blessing Abu, saying good to have you join us again on the program today. Welcome to the program.
I'm Kingsley Osadoma, John Blyton, also welcoming you to this edition of the program, as always reaching you live on the network service of the NTA, we're Africa's biggest television network. Now, food security will not be the only issue that we are taking on in our discussion segment today. We'll also have a review of the performance of the Super Eagles in the ongoing 2018 World Cup qualifiers. You know that
on Monday, yes,
the Cameroonians had a penalty, and so they pulled one back, one apiece, and Nigeria has 10 points now. And Zambia, next to us, Zambia has 7.
Exactly.
They beat Algeria in Algiers.
Well, in addition, we'll bring to you our companion segments, which include the newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, as well as entertainment news. But let's kick off with the morning news, and here's Adeyemi Omojola Fatoba as our guide. Good morning to you.
Hello, blessing.
By the way, did you watch the Super Eagles match against Cameroon?
I was on duty, so I didn't.
Oh, no.
I missed it. I know did
Absolutely, sir.
Good morning. You guys.
Sit here.
Good morning and welcome to the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has described as heartwarming reports indicating Nigeria's exit from recession, but quickly added that its real impact will be better felt when the nation's majority experience the desired change in their living conditions. The president stated this in Daura when his counterpart from the Republic of Niger, President Muhammadu Isufu, paid him a visit.
Sadly, I should be happy for what it is worth. But kamar da mutane ke a gani a ƙasa.
Nigeria's exit from economic recession has been described as a clear testimony that the Buhari administration is working for the progress and prosperity of all Nigerians. Special advisor to the president, media and publicity, Femi Adesina, made the declaration in Abuja while addressing a solidarity rally in support of the federal government, organized by the Center for Civil Society and Justice.
The president has sworn to keep the unity of the country, and whatever it takes, he will keep to that place. He will keep to that place. I want you to rest assured that the unity of Nigeria is not threatened, because we have a government, we have a president that will do all that is necessary to keep Nigeria together. Lives and tongue may differ, but in brotherhood we stand.
Meanwhile, this week's Federal Executive Council FEC meeting will not hold due to inadequate time to prepare the documents for the meeting. Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, has announced. In a statement, the minister said the 2-day public holiday declared for the Eid al-Kabir celebrations left little or no time to prepare for the weekly meeting. All is now set for the launching of a program, Here Nigeria. The program targets Nigerians of all ages to promote patriotism and civic responsibility on the significance of national symbols. And it is a collaborative effort between the Nigerian Television Authority, National Orientation Agency, and Zeitgeist Aesthetics, a non-governmental organization.
Nigerian passports, the national identity card, the Nigerian currency, the postal stamps, and the seal of the office of the president.
So all platforms we have will take one form of story or other concerning this activity so that everybody can benefit from it.
It is very important that the citizens imbibe the right attitude of patriotism and nationalism.
If properly nurtured and utilized, culture can be a main revenue earner to the economy of Nigeria, and this will discourage the over-reliance on oil. This was the submission of the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, in a message to the 10th Africa Arts and Crafts Expo holding in Abuja.
The National Council of Arts and Culture has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Bank of Industry for the sum of 300 million to be set aside as soft loan to stakeholders in the arts and craft industry. This loan can be more easily accessed if stakeholders and key players in the industry constitute themselves into cooperative groups.
Our business is straightforward. We want to use culture to replace oil, and that's the main issue while we are networking here.
Other speakers at the expo observed that beyond the economic benefits of culture, it also brings together people from different backgrounds and tribes, which is key to sustainable peace in the country. As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark the Spinal Cord Injury Day, experts are of the view that well-equipped facilities to address spinal cord problems must be established to reduce medical tourism and burden on Nigerians.
The problem is that you cannot mobilize or get a patient up and start doing physiotherapy until you actually fix that fracture in the spine. So those are some of the key issues. So complete spinal cord injury, very, very difficult to get back to where you were, where you could move exactly the way you could move your arms or your legs before. Incomplete spinal cord injury, depending on how you're managing the patient, how the patient gets an operation, if the patient needs an operation, then you can probably have a much better outcome with that.
Once you have spinal cord injury, I'm sorry for you, your own is finished. So, but we are looking at a situation whereby how can we collaborate? How can we be their mouthpiece? How can we help them to remove obstacles?
And that's the news for now. We do thank you for being a part of it. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll be back with Kingsley and Lesson after this break.
1967 to 1970, Nigeria went through a horrifying civil war. It didn't matter who was wrong or right. Everybody suffered. Those who fought that war say it should never happen again.
So a lot of people will say, but you were leading the first one. Yes, I led the first one. I don't think the second one is necessary. We should have learned from that first one. Otherwise, the dead would have been to no avail. It would all have been in vain.
The words of our elders are full of wisdom.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
I feel alive, so alive when I'm with my best friends, indulging my G-exotic taste of paradise. Irresistible, everywhere I go, G-exotic. Nothing makes my drink more than when the mixer is delightful. G-exotic. After a long day, I want to relax with the taste of my G-exotic. Yeah, sinking in the lost. Taste of relaxation, too good not to share. The taste of perfection. Oh, say I love the taste of G-exotic. I love the taste of celebration. Love the taste of G-exotic. Nothing like the taste of my G-exotic. I love the taste of G-exotic. Nothing like the taste of my G-exotic.
I love the taste.
G-exotic nectar. I love the taste.
Helen! Your kitchen gets 10 out of 10. Thank you. This also gets a 10. Should we see the toilet now? Sure. This gets just 1. It is clean, but not perfect 10. Better than my detergent and bleach? Impossible. Challenge? Try Apic compared to bleach and detergent. Apic sticker formulation removes yellow stains times better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet. Wow. Now you also take that Apic 10X challenge.
Also available in 200 ml pack.
Every day, I see patients who come to me suffering from infectious diseases caused by germs, from typhoid to diarrhea, flu, cough. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily when we use the toilet, from our door handles, from other surfaces, we transfer to others without realizing. That is why we recommend Dettol Antiseptic Liquid. Protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol Sure.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. Now, reactions have continued to trail Nigeria's exit from recession as President Buhari's administration promises to do everything possible to sustain the growth. Now, let's join Amina Najim for details of this as well as other stories in our business reports.
Good morning and welcome to the Business News segment. We start the day's news on a cheery note with the news that Nigeria is finally out of recession. President Muhammadu Buhari's administration has expressed satisfaction at the news of Nigeria's exit from recession with cautious optimism and a promise to continue to drive the Nigerian economic growth by vigorously implementing the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan launched earlier this year. A statement from the Office of the Vice President noted that the overall economic plan and direction of the administration has resulted, among others, in sustained restoration of oil production levels, occasioned by enhanced security and stability in the Niger Delta, sustained growth in agriculture, mining, and the first growth recorded in the industry as a whole in the last 9 quarters since the fourth quarter of 2014. Now, a quick rundown of the GDP data released Tuesday by the National Bureau of Statistics. The data reveals that the country's gross domestic product (GDP) shows a 0.55% growth in the Nigerian economy in the second quarter of 2017. This is 2.04% higher than the rate recorded in the corresponding quarter of 2016 and higher by 1.46% points from the rate recorded in the preceding quarter. The NBS attributes the economic recovery to the performance of 4 main economic activities comprising oil, agriculture, manufacturing, and trade. Similarly, Nigerians have reacted to the latest NBS report.
I've not, as far as I'm concerned, I've not seen it, I've not feel it that really we're out of a recession. It is true that we may be partially out of recession, but on people they may say so because they don't have all the policies. But in reality, I don't think we're out of recession.
It's not coming as a surprise that, at least in technical terms, Nigeria is, out of the recession.
The Nigerian Stock Exchange resumed trading Tuesday after taking a break for the Salah celebrations on a negative sentiment. Next is a graphic summary on how the equities market fared on Tuesday. That report concludes the business news segment on Good Morning Nigeria. The program continues shortly.
Thank you very much, Amina, for the business package. Next for us, we go to the front pages of some of today's newspapers to check out the headlines.
We'd like to welcome our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atuyobi, to the studio this morning. Good morning to you, Bayo.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good to see you too.
All right. Obviously, the lead story that we have for the papers that are with us this morning, they have to do with matters arising from the official announcement that Nigeria is now out of recession. That's the economy, by the way. Now, we had a story yesterday on the front page of this day, and by if you recall, we'll discuss it. Was the only newspaper that had a story, but there's now the formal announcement by the National Bureau.
The embargo.
Yes, of course, announcing what's happening. Now, let's start with this day. This day has a double-decker headline, and the headline reads, despite exiting recession, federal government admits growth remains fragile. And two writers, Buhari expresses hope recovery will improve living standards, and Senate elated at improvement in nation's economy. Now, there's a news analysis below that. That's a news feature. Of course, it starts on the front page and jumps to page 46. It says, with population growth at 2.7%, Nigeria still not out of the woods. That's to say with regard to the economy. And immediately below that, again, FEC meeting cancelled over public holiday. FEC stands for the Federal Executive Council. Now, above the nameplate, there's a headline there, FGNARD. NARD stands for the National Association of Resident Doctors, they meet today to resolve doctor strike. That story is also inside. And then, of course, you can see the headline there. There's some corporate raiders with regard to that headline. It has to do, of course, with the control of Owando. Owando says Intel's VP sets up battle against Wale Tinubu over control of Owando and petitions SEC and seeks to stop companies AGM. SEC stands for Securities and Exchange Commission. Owando, this is an attempt to force us to buy out Volpe. As I indicated, the lead story for the other papers, Independent, it's also with regard to the economy, and then the blueprint also is also on the economy. Let me just quickly take the headline for Independent before I bring in Blessing. The economy remains weak as Nigeria exits recession. And three riders, how we ended worst slump in 25 years. That's according to the presidency. Nigeria still far from economic recovery. Opinion of analysts and ordinary Nigerians need to feel the impact, says Buhari.
Well, Kingsley, you're right. Another paper here has the same story on the recession and economy. The Authority is the paper I go to first. No excitement on recession exits. That's the lead story for the Authority this morning. And the writer says citizens yet to feel the impact. Mixed reactions already trailing the issue of the recession of the economy, recession from the economy. Just above the nameplates for the Authority, we have these stories. ECOWAS Commission in 180 million naira contract debt crisis. That's what it's trending on page 4. And to page 2 is the story on the resident doctors strike. Federal government orders engagement of interns to, we find that the details of that story on page 2. IPOB alleges Army police invasion of Southeast and South-South. That's what is trending on page 4. And still on page 4, no food scarcity in Nigeria, says Agriculture Minister Adobe. We have there on the front page still the photograph of the President Muhammadu Buhari. On the right, of course, receiving President Muhammadu Isufu of Niger Republic, who visited him in Daura yesterday. Federal government to seize and sell empty houses in Abuja, or Abuja houses. That's to start right about continues on page 2. While they want to do that, find out more details. Quickly now to the New Telegraph. Leading for the New Telegraph is a story on the doctor strike. Doctor strike cripples hospitals nationwide with 2 riders. Federal government engages ad hoc doctors in medical centers. Patients lament and relocate to private hospitals. You find more details on page 4. But just above that, you have Zamfara attack. Police search for missing colleagues. That story is on page 34. Workers desert National Assembly even after Salah holiday. We find that story on page 7. Panic as diarrhea claims 20 lives in Kebbi. That story you find on page 9. And on page 6, federal government cancels today's fake meeting. Let's move further down the paper. 7 police students held for internet fraud. You find the details on page 8. Cautious optimism, excitement as Nigeria exits recession. Back to that economy story. Experts say how to sustain the growth. From Buhari, Central Bank of Nigeria, Dogara were excited. Senate were worried over unemployment and rising food prices. All the details on pages 2, 3, and 29. Okay, Bayo, let's start.
Of recession, and from the statistics produced by the National Bureau of Statistics, the indication are that agriculture and manufacturing pulled the economy out of recession. Agriculture recorded about 3.01%, while manufacturing recorded 1.36% growth in the first quarter and in the second quarter. Crop production was the major driver for agriculture. This combined with manufacturing, trade, services, mining, coal, as well as agriculture to produce 98% of 28% of GDP.
Just before we you continue your discussion of the topic, particularly with regard to Nigeria exiting recession, and let's quickly take some other headlines, and then of course you come back to discuss all of this. Let's return to the Independent newspaper. The front page of the Independent newspaper earlier had read the lead story from the Independent. Let's go above the nameplate now of the Independent. Rumble in Tinubu's APC camp as 2019 beckons. No rift between Tinubu and me, says Lai Mohammed. That story, of course, it's above the nameplate. Another one there, just immediately below the name flag, ASU strike. Nance writes President Muhammadu Buhari and gives federal government 2-week ultimatum. That story can be found in greater detail on page A15. Now, also there on the front page, that's the third lead story. Federal government shocked over doctors' strike and asks hospitals to engage doctors on ad hoc basis and cancels FEC meeting, second time since Buhari's return. Now, also there, we have another headline from the front page of Independent. Embattled former Edo Deputy Speaker returns 3 vehicles. Embattled former Edo Deputy Speaker returns 3 vehicles. And a nation united by force is vulnerable. That's according to some details can be found on page D1.
Just one more story to add to what Bayo will look into. Just above the name plate for the New Telegraph, how reps awarded 60 billion naira constituency project contracts. I want to find out more details on page 5. We'll start right there, actually. Bayo.
Yes, I was just talking about the recession, and the danger signal, however, is that we have pulled out of recession, but the economy still is very fragile, and these are indications from the growth. Population growth is about 2.7%, and there's also high inflation. It's at 16% now, and unemployment as well as low per capita income is a factor that needs to be taken into consideration. In fact, President Muhammadu Buhari reacted about it. He said, yes, this is a cheering news, but the ordinary man will say, we have not seen it in the market. And therefore, there is a lot more to be done. Now, the other topic of concern is the doctor strike. The federal government will meet with the resident doctors on the issue of the strike. This indication was given by the Minister of Health. However, the Minister of Health has given directives that consultants, NYC doctors as well as doctors intern should move to hospitals to fill in the void created by the resident doctors. Meanwhile, Juku Emeka Odumegwu Juku Teaching Hospital, Amaku, did not join the strike. Therefore, it belies the story from Nigeria Telegraph, New Telegraph, that says that the hospitals were grounded nationwide. They didn't join because they say Anambra State has a peculiar case and they didn't join. Also, members of the public have been reacting very negatively. They are blaming resident doctors because there is a policy that allows doctors to own private clinics, and they are lamenting that they are now diverting attention of patients to their private clinic. Therefore, they are robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so, but the indications are that negotiations are on. They will be meeting either today or tomorrow, and expectations are that the strike will be called. Also, the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities says they will be meeting Thursday with the Minister of Labor and Employment, and they will be looking at the issues surrounding ASU strike. The other story that of concern relates to corruption. The chairman Special Presidential Investigation Panel of Recovery of Public Property, who is also the Special Assistant to the President on Prosecution, Chief Okoye Obona Obla, says that federal government is going to take census of empty houses, and such houses, if the owners do not show up, they will be seized eventually. He says there is
sold. That's how the authority is. Federal government to seize, sell empty Abuja houses.
Yes, he was.
And use it to fund education.
He was receiving a social organization which calls itself Say No to Campaign, and they suggested to him that there should be a census of owners of property, like you have the bank verification numbers, so that they should be given numbers and registered. That will help identify owners of such properties. The other one also came from the chairman of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, Professor Issei Sage, and he says chief executive of banks who have been noted to have connived with looters of public treasury and stolen funds must not be allowed to go scot-free. He says that the monstrous epidemic of high-profile corruption couldn't have been afflicted on Nigeria without the collusion of bank executives. And so they too are on the verge and radar of the corruption war.
Yeah, that's right. Bayo, thank you very much. I think that the cautious reception, as it were, of the news of Nigeria's end of recession, it's something that should be applauded. Otherwise, perhaps we might have be greeted with all kinds of statements, regarding what has happened to the economy and how we got out of the economy. The fact that the economy remains fragile, and President Buhari's own statement to say, listen, the fact officially we're out of recession, Nigerians need to feel this, means that there's a clear recognition of the fact that there's still a lot of work to do, and particularly the sectors that have aided the growth in the economy. As you indicated, agriculture has been one of it.
Been in recession for five quarters consecutively. Exactly, it's not
and this recession came after 25 years.
That's right.
And therefore, having come out of it, particularly the noteworthy significance thing to note is that the agriculture and manufacturing contributed 98%, and oil, which was our mainstay, is now contributing about 1.64%. So the diversification of the economy is beginning to take
exactly. So we should be applauded.
It needs to be pursued
significant. That's right. The policy measures need to be sustained. Well, the other topic we don't have enough time to also discuss that with the threat by the senior special assistant to the president to seize properties in Abuja. Of course, you've got lawyers and other rights activists will begin to respond to that in due course. Bayo Atuebi, that's the much that we have. Thank you for being with us on the program. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you for having me.
It's Good Morning Nigeria still on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing food security in Nigeria.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
The health delivery profession is one of the most abused professions in the world, especially in our part of the world.
We be doctor.
Everybody is a doctor. Everybody is a pharmacist who peddles and prescribes drugs, herbal remedies, and treatment procedures.
It dey cure HIV. It dey cure AIDS. It dey cure curiosity. It dey cure anger.
What type of drug cures all these ailments?
Alas, some sanity needs to be achieved before we completely go over the ledge. Your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Boo, takes a satirical look at this ugly trend this week in the episode titled Street Doctor.
Prepare some rice and pepper soup for him and ensure he eats it. If he fails, shove it down his throat if you have to. Rolling over and out.
Brought to you by Glow,
the largest data network. Glow Unlimited. Dettol team is visiting schools to teach children how to protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold? No. They are spread through germs on your hands. Your hands collect germs that causes diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands regularly with Dettol soap to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Wash, wash, wash your hands. What you have to do is wash, wash, wash your hands. Use Dettol soap every day. Wash, wash, wash your hands.
Yes, to kickstart the first part of our conversation this morning, take a look at food security. Let's take a look at this background report. According to Global Report on Food Crisis 2017, some parts of the world is likely to witness famine, and that include northeast Nigeria. Now, this is the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency, no doubts. But Omotola Mojola has put together this report to kickstart our conversation, like I said.
A nation that has the power of food sufficiency can be termed one with national security, as a school of thought have likened food as a basic necessity for human survival, the antidote for social crisis. Hence, the need for every country and people to be sufficient in food production. That also comes to the agricultural prospect of such country. Nigeria was largely an agrarian economy before the oil boom, which shifted the economic focus of the country. The consequences linger, but not without efforts from federal and state government to develop the agriculture sector and bring it to a competitive level with oil as a viable alternative. It is at the crux of the diversification campaign by successive governments. Nigeria by population estimate should be a little over 180 million. While that is a huge trend for agri-cultivation and production, it has also in itself been a challenge considering what it takes to feed such a population and the food deficit state of the country. Nigeria, despite the abundance of arable land, still ranks high in the Global Hunger Index. This not helped by insurgency in the northeastern part of the country, where over 4 million people are reportedly having food crisis. The high prices of food produce also take food out of the reach of some people in some parts of the population, creating concerns in some quarters. The challenges notwithstanding, agriculture remains the sellable alternative by this administration, and it is doing all it can to ensure food sufficiency in the country. The result is a bumper harvest recorded in 2016, especially in rice production. The federal government also launched the Food Security and Nutrition Strategy with a timeline of 2016 to 2025. However, global indices are pointing to the fact that Nigeria needs to do more to feed a fast-growing population. So, where is Nigeria today in terms of food security? Join the discussion as experts provide answers.
All right, thank you very much, Murtala Mojola, for that elaborate background report. We have guests with us in the studio this morning to discuss the issue in greater detail. First, we'd like to welcome, of course, a familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria, always joining us mostly from one of our network centers, Professor Abba Gambo. Professor Abba Gambo is an agricultural consultant. Professor Gambo, a pleasure that you're with us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, Kingsley.
All right, and then we also have with us here in the studios, it's an agric engineer, that's Shehu Tijani Bello, Acting Director of Food and Strategic Reserve of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Engineer Tijani Bello, pleasure that with us on the program.
Thank you very much, Zakisli.
All right.
It's a pleasure being with you this morning.
All right. Also here with us is the President of Farmers Association of Nigeria. We've always had him when we are discussing food issues, Architect Kabir Ibrahim. Architect Ibrahim, pleasure that you're here with us.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we of course will be joined by another guest subsequently in the course of the conversation. We're talking food security with regard to Nigeria. A moment ago when we were reviewing the papers, the Honorable Minister of Agric, Chief Audu, did say that Nigeria wasn't facing any problem with regard to food sufficiency, but we're dealing with high costs. But what is, if you like, the architecture of food security in any country? Professor Gambo.
Thank you very much. Now, first and foremost, we have to digest food security as per the UN definition. The food must be there, available, then affordable, and it must be in a balanced way. These three things, availability, affordability, and then in a balanced form, is very important. Now, from the statistics released just yesterday by the National Bureau of Statistics, we saw that there was an increase in the overall agricultural sector by about plus 1.64%. But then the first quarter of this year, the agric performance was 3.33%. So by the second quarter, when the statistics came, it has dropped to about 3.09. So there is a slight problem in that we are expecting to see a higher percentage of the agricultural sector addition to the GDP than the first quarter, but there are some few things that happened within the course of the discussion. We can actually give the reasons for the shortfall. Now, talking about food security in Nigeria, anybody can say that the food is available. really. The farmers, most especially the subsistence farmers, are working. You go to the markets, you find the food. But then the prices really are on the high side, very high side. So that makes food security a big issue. The food is available, but then most people cannot afford it because of the high prices. So the feeding regime in most homes have actually reduced. And when you reduce the feeding regime in a family, you are actually reducing what is supposed to be a balanced diet. So the situation now is there is food in the market, but then the prices are on the high side.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Gambo. We'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Engineer Shehu Tijani Bello, let's have your take on what food security is all about. When you say, for instance, the three steps or the three factors that must be present in food security according to the UN: availability, affordability, and balanced diet. What makes food available?
Thank you very much. Professor Gambo have already said that the issue is not that of lack of availability of food. In this country, food is available. But the Honourable Minister also said, that is the true position, the cost of food is high. And the ministry is sensitive to it. And the ministry has been making effort to make sure that the cost of food is brought down. But brought down in a way that it will keep the farmer on the farm. The consumers also will have food to buy at a reasonable price, and the only way you can do this is to increase productivity and to produce and continue producing at a very low cost. As long as the productivity of the farmer is high, definitely he is in business also, and he needs to sustain himself, so he has to charge appropriate price. And this, the government is working on this by making sure that we have adequate storage structures such that whatever excess is produced, we are able to store it, create market. Once we create more market and you are producing, because when you're producing and you are not getting good price, you end up with a glut. And the essence is not to have glut, to make sure that both the farmer and the consumer have adequate food to, for their sustenance.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Bello. Now, the farmer is here. So, really, this is one great concern. We've just talked about the different parts: affordability, availability, and now the balance form. Where is the threat for the farmer in actually keeping you on the farm and in business?
Well, as a farmer, I'm a businessman. I'm happy when I sell my produce at a very high price. At least I recover my costs and I have very good return on investments. But as a Nigerian, I worry that so many people cannot afford to buy food. To that extent, I think the food security of the nation is threatened. As the Director of Food Reserve Agency alluded to the increase or establishment of storages, improving productivity or production on the farms will ameliorate the problem of price. I would like to also remind him that as a government, since about 2008, we saw an increase in terms of storage, which is one of the cardinal things in NEPAD, that we should have storages, marketing, processing and all that. Nigeria tried to bring up the issue of storages. We have 1.3 million capacity now of storage. I don't know whether those silos are active today, because if they were and we had something there, if the price of food in the market gets very high, you will now release from the storage to bring down the prices. If you produce too much for the market, you now offtake so that the farmer also gets a guaranteed minimum price for what he has, and the guaranteed minimum price is supposed to be in place. So it's a catch-22 situation for me as a farmer. I tend to tell my people that it's only now that we are able to get value from what we produce, and we are every day getting more people into agriculture. Even people who otherwise think agriculture is drudgery that should be done are now there. The youth are now there. everybody else, even you, I think, you want to get into agriculture because of the popularity of agriculture and out of necessity, because the oil that we had is getting very low prices in the global market, and we have no peace where the oil is. If we can farm everywhere, and since agriculture knows no borders, if you're a pagan, a Christian or a Muslim, if you produce food, we will eat it. If you are a male or female, we will eat it. I think everybody in Nigeria today is looking at agriculture as a means to improve our living and therefore have food sufficiency and ultimately have food security.
So what the picture you've painted now, is Nigeria food sufficient present?
Well, it's a very tall order. There is food, all right, but if people do not have it in their stomachs, you cannot say you have sufficient food. So the economy must be looked at. The purchasing power of the typical Nigerian must be improved. The appropriate infrastructure to show up the Naira must be in place. The attitude, the mindset of people has got to change so that our Naira or whatever currency we have will have a good purchasing power for the people. Some people are talking of, if you sell maize, for instance, at 15,000 per 100 kg, people are saying it's very, very costly because of what they take home. If your salary is unchanged, therefore the vis-a-vis what you earn, what you have in your pocket, that price is very high. But when you convert 15,000 into dollars, it's nothing, because if you go to the global market, that dollar will not purchase much. So the whole thing is from inside. You must work. There are many parameters that you have to look at. Okay. The most important one is the purchasing power of the typical Nigerian has to be improved.
All right, thank you very much, President of Farmers Association of Nigeria. Gentlemen, we had seen in this economy a few years ago when inflation was at single digits, and one of the contributing factors to that was the fact that food prices were relatively affordable, more affordable than what we are seeing today. But indeed, the prompt for this conversation has to do with a number of, if you like, ecological occurrences. We had discussed flood and flooding on this program, and of course there are also issues with regard to social peace. Benue has been heavily impacted by floods, as we have seen, and senior government officials have indicated that, look, this is going to affect food production. Some parts of the north have also been affected by flash floods. So if we're looking at the figures coming out from the MBS, first quarter, second quarter, looking ahead, because that's where the security is, if we've been able to deal with the preceding 2 quarters, what can we see in terms of environmental factors, in terms of social peace already impacting on agricultural production in different parts of the country? Professor Gambo.
Thank you very much. Now we have to look at it in 2 perspectives. The Nigerian Governors Forum is working very hard to make sure that there is a synergy between the state governments and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Previously, there has been a very big disconnect. But now individual states are trying to come together so that we form a synergy. Now the Northeast, I'll come to it later. But then there is a very interesting story that I saw recently. I visited Yauri in Kebbi State, and for the first time in my life, Kingsley, I noticed that they are producing rice 3 times a year. 3 times. So all the emphasis has always been on 2 times, the swamp one during the rainy season and then the dry season one. But here you find a situation in Yauri whereby you have 3 times of rice within a single year. But this is not given recognition, and then there is a big market there that can be exploited for the benefit of the nation. When I was there, somebody told me every Wednesday, that's their market day, about 40 trucks of rice leave Yauri. But then the major problem in Yauri, I'm happy the man from the ministry is here, there is no a single rice mill within the whole of Yauri. With all the rice, virtually every single farmer, including their women, are all rice farmers. Unfortunately, that facility is not there. Now, let's come to Benue State. Benue State is a very special state as far as agriculture is concerned. It's a food basket.
Exactly, that is fabricate.
Exactly, really. And we so much believe in that. But then when they were about harvesting, unfortunately, that was when the flood came. So you are not just saving your farm. No. You have to think of how to save your own family first and maybe some little property. So the water submerged virtually everything. And most of these crops, once they are in water for more than 3 days, they are gone completely. Now let's come to the Northeast. In the Northeast, the food situation is very, very bad. We are in a red zone in the Northeast. Malnutrition is high, not just within the IDPs, but even within the town center itself. Then, of course, you have the issue of the farmers not going out to farm again. We tried all our best to make sure that allow the IDPs this year to go out and farm so that at least they can pick the bits and pieces of their lives.
Why the trepidation about going back to the farms?
The security men, they said it's still not secured, so they cannot move. And then when you are even around the IDP camps, they said you cannot grow some tall crops, and then you have to grow some legumes only. You know, people in the Northeast, the staple food is millet, sorghum, etc. So by the time you don't grow the tall crops, you don't have food at all. So that's a big issue. Then another thing is the purchasing power, like the Afan man said. The state government, some are not paying salaries when due. So you have to make the environment conducive. It's not just the natural environment, but then the man-made environment has to be conducive. If you're giving the workers their salaries when due, you see that everything is moving on fine. And then still in the Northeast, there is the case of Yobe State. Yobe State is peculiar to us because they started a program that I must highlight. The governor said, I want additional 10,000 hectares of new irrigable land with the inclusion of 1,000 youths, 100,000 youths into the program. They've just harvested their first wheat and the youths have taken it up. Salaries are being paid. People in Yobe are all on the farm. Yobe is going to be a model state soon. So the Northeast, we are coming out of the insurgency gradually, but then Borno, unfortunately, where I come from, the epicenter, you can look at me, I look malnourished, and that's what everybody looks.
Well, Professor Gambo, what he says, you heard him that he looks malnourished. Just before we came on, I told him that he appeared to be a poor and even a bad advertisement for the situation in the Northeast. Professor Gambo, thank you very much. But gentlemen, from what Professor Gambo has just indicated, what is the prognosis in terms of food security? Because the knock-on effect, we'll start seeing it in the months ahead. Let's get the views of engineer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kingsley. Let me start with, I was happy that he corrected the notion on the Northeast when he was saying that there is food insecurity. That is true, but I was happy he mentioned the effort being made in Yobe. We should not forget that the Northeast consists of about 5 states. About 6 states, sorry. Where farming is really not going on now, I think is part of Borno State. Even Borno is not all of it. I'm not by any means saying that everything is perfect. But what I'm saying is that with the current effort going on, I think by next season, we will see a different Northeast in terms of food production. Coming to the issue of meals, I can tell you authoritatively that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture has just distributed over 200 rice meals to take care of the bumper harvest of paddy we have, to see that we are able to mill this rice. In addition to these 200 paddy rice meal that is being distributed, we are also doing this because these ones are between 10 tons and 20 tons per day meals, which are only good for cottage industry. But the real integrated rice meal, in addition to the existing one we have in the country, I think about 20 are also being procured through the back of industry. So once we have adequate meals in the country and our paddy production is going as it is now, we don't want a situation whereby we will have during the harvest season the paddy is all over the place. This country is a country of over 180 million people. We must be able to have enough paddy that will last us a whole season. So So happily, what he said, let me even put it in what he's trying to say about growing paddy 3 times in a year is such that immediately they harvest the rainy season paddy. Presently, they are planting another one, and by the time you are harvesting that one, you put in the dry season on.
But you just said that what strategy is an institution like yours doing? He just made mention that there's no single mill close to such a place where you have in Yori, and maybe some other parts that are actually even doing some other forms of production, maybe even more than
Yauri is in Kebbi State. Kebbi State has one of the largest integrated rice mill in this country, Labana Rice Mill, which is in Alero, I think. In addition to that, that's why I just mentioned that we have new 200 rice mill coming up, and another subsequent 20.
How soon are those ones coming?
Those were already in. People are just, what is the issue is that government is not going into the business of processing. People made application and they have applied for them. Government has issued it to them for them to go and set up. All we do is to monitor it and make sure that they use it for what they are meant for.
That's one area.
That's one area. But I think that
other parts.
Yeah, the other parts that we need to get back to. Let's bring it.
Not only 200 meters is for the entire country.
Hold on a second, please. Rice is also grown and produced in other parts of the country. Just hold on. The architect Kabir Ibrahim. What is the experience that you are getting from your members with regard to opportunity to cultivate? We're talking about perhaps grains and crops. We say that Borno is heavily impacted. Some work is going on in Yobe. What is the experience in Adamawa State, for instance? What is the experience like in terms of harvesting in Benue? What is the experience like in Niger? Because Niger has also been impacted by floods. And then when you now come to protein, it's fish farming. What are you getting from, say, the water areas, where you can freshwater areas where people normally would also breed fish and other forms of aquatic life?
Aside from these disasters, these areas you mentioned, Adamawa, Benue, and Niger, we had been very, very happy, with what our farmers are doing in grain or crop production and even in the livestock. But generally the government has put in place so many mechanisms to help aquaculture, because you mentioned fishery and all that. One of our chairman, I think our chairman in the state of Oshun, is even driving the aquaculture thing. And there is a lot of opportunities. There is a new window. There is some money from the banks that you can easily access to enhance what we do. So on a general level, since the launch of the green alternative, the Nigerian government has filled the space of agriculture with a lot of hope for the typical farmer. Of course, these things happen. Floods come in Nigeria. They are even in the United States today. I think they are estimating spending about 8 billion in Texas to mitigate what is happening. It's unfortunate that our food basket is afflicted with this, and definitely we will suffer somewhat because of what has happened. On the whole, we are hopeful that the Nigerian situation will improve as more attention is being paid to agriculture. And as Prof said, the states are doing a lot of work to collaborate with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to ensure that there is a better understanding and better reawakening in doing agriculture.
Kingsley, let's explore further the other impacts from what farmers are facing. Recently also we had the issue of armyworms invasion in some other states. Let's leave the issue of floods and some other natural disasters. What about what other impacts are we feeling in other parts of the country? Southwest, Southeast, Edo, Middle Belt, and all of those areas.
Well, armyworms, of course, is related to crops, which Professor is better equipped to talk about. But from the layman's point of view, armyworms will invade your farm if you don't have sufficient rains. But when the rains intensify, they die off. And then you get out of it, and not too much havoc is caused when the thing is not exacerbated. In other places, we know we always had a flood in those other areas, Edo and all that. Today we are getting it in
on opposite direction.
So it's a difficult situation, but with resilience, with more attention, more focus, we should be able to get out of it all. In the interim, we must put in place certain measures to mitigate this looming disaster. There is no doubt about it. It is important that we have something, to fall back on.
That's something we're sticking to.
Architect Kabir Ibrahim, you raised a number of points, one of which we would like Engineer Shehu Tijani to also comment on, in terms of buffer stock, reacting to shortfalls, in terms of harvest. Professor Gambo has indicated, for instance, what has happened in Benue. Near the time of harvest, the floods have come. Beyond 3 days, the crops are wasted, so the harvests are lost. Northeast parts of the North State, critical parts of the North State, they can't farm XYZ. What is it that we know in terms of our buffer stock, and therefore the utilization of the silos? There's one giant silo outside of Abuja here. You have several others in Kebbi and in different parts of the country. Are the silos stocked?
Thank you very much. Within available resources, I can say the silos are stocked. But when you talk about buffer stock, you are talking about the entire storage program in the country. We operate a federation. Agriculture is on concurrent list. Federal government handles the strategic reserve. The states handles the buffer stocks, and the farmers the storage at the on-farm level. But this government has, in its wisdom, felt that the attention being given to buffer stock is not adequate enough. Has tried to do a public-private partnership, and some companies were asked to partner with government to keep some stock, on behalf of the government for release when the prices are high in the market, so that you don't get bogged down with you have to separate the strategic from the buffer stock. You heard that the vice president, then acting president, was in the Northeast. What they were releasing was from the buffer stock being kept by the private sector people. By all means, I will not say that the level we have is adequate for our population.
So what efforts are being put in to actually have that common strong between the states and the local governments, and what the federal government is doing?
There is, because as I'm speaking to you, Edo State government is going to use our facility in the silo we have in Irua for storage of over 2,000 tons of maize from their own farm. I'm also aware Anambra State government is doing something through Koschari Farms to use the silo facility in Ibariam. So for the states, that have those structures, the federal government is ready and cooperating with them and encouraging them to actually keep some buffer stock. But I must tell you, this country is such that the traders and merchants are actually the ones that keeps the bulk of the buffer stock, because these big companies of the poultry people, when they need large quantity of maize, they will not come to federal government. They will go to these private traders first. They issue them with LPOs. It is when they cannot get that, when they come to the government for assistance.
One underlying part of Kingsley's question, yes, looking at some of those areas, like the crops in Benue, or at least the farmlands in Benue that Professor Gambo talked about. Yes. After 3 days, they die off.
Yeah,
what measures?
Yeah, the farmland in Benue, obviously a disaster has no other name. It's a disaster. Definitely you will recover some. The ones that are recoverable when the flood recedes, they will recover them. But the main thing is that the ministry has a strategy of making sure that those flooded area, once they recede in the next 1-2 months, you find that is where the bulk of they will be giving priority for the dry season farming, so that the farmers can actually quickly go back. And you also find that those areas will have more nutrient, because the flood brings in the nutrient from one farm and transfer it to it. So the best thing for you is to use the receded area for your dry season farming. So they might have lost during the rainy season But I can assure you that by the time the flood recedes for grains, you can easily replant.
They might.
I was wondering.
The government has package for them. We will not just ask them to just go to the farm. The government will give them input, even some training, even provide them with some mechanization.
You said that Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, his intervention while he was acting president, led to the release of grains from the strategic reserve for the Northeast. That's to indicate, according to you, the fact that, well, your reserves appear to be sufficient. But Professor Gambo also indicated, and I quote him, we are in a red zone in the Northeast, pointing out the high incidence of malnutrition. How is this being addressed?
Thank you very much. There is a lot of intervention in the Northeast, both from the NGOs, development partners, and even from the ministry, even the private sector. So, but when you have millions of people that cannot really go out to earn a living, you can't go and farm. So you cannot really, whatever you do for them, it cannot really be adequate. You can only try to ameliorate and reduce the impact of the insurgency. But I believe as more of the areas are being cleared and made safe for the farmers to return to their land, I think the issue of malnutrition and insecurity will be gradually disappearing. Just as I've said when we started, I believe by this time in next farming season, there will be a different story. It will not continue like this.
All right, Professor Gambo, what's your take on all of this? Do we have a clear sense? Look, in terms of food security forecasting, if we take a look at what has happened in the past year, you indicated that the figures from the first quarter showed a growth. By the second quarter, there was a decline. So what do we envisage in the last 2 quarters of the year, and what might be the knock-on effect? You wanted to discuss earlier the causative factors in the slide from the high growth that we had seen in the first quarter to the second quarter.
From all indications, Kingsley, we are going to have additional drop. Definitely. We are expecting so much from Benue. Benue, it's gone. And the Northeast, let me make certain clarifications. If not for the donor agencies and some few individuals, governmental assistance to the Northeast, most especially the people in the IDP, it's zero. I stand to be quoted. I agree with him. The vice president will release some grains and they were there. But then there were incidents when some grains were released and about 74 trucks from Abuja to Maiduguri, they disappeared. All these incidences are there. So now the issue is, you now have a set of people and with plenty of children, there is no food for the baby. The dry rice you give the mother is the same rice that the mother has to give the 3 days old baby. And there are no facilities to grind anything. That is one. Then the second issue is, you just cannot give rice, Dangote rice to them alone. The kids, for the first 5 years is the formative age. Often, the poultry man will tell you that eggs very important, milk very important for the children. So what we are saying now is for the IDPs to be better off, just to make sure you release them, secure their places and then release them. That's the best thing. So that virtually 99% of all the IDPs in Borno State are farmers. Borno is an agrarian state. We agree we are a poor state, but we've really taken our poverty with dignity. But now, we now have a stage whereby the man that was feeding others is now being fed himself. So, for how long are you going to be, you stay in the camp and then you keep asking people to come and give to you, to come and give to you?
Professor Gambo, just by way of further illustration, what do we know? Because in some parts of the south, in the Delta, Enugu, parts of Abia, less so now in the southwest, where you've had clashes involving herdsmen and farmers. There have been reports, and we've read those reports in the newspaper reviews on this program, that farmers are unable to go to their farms. What are we likely to see in terms of the impact of this on the subsistence output and therefore the nation's food security?
The truth is, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture has to be more proactive as for policy formulation, implementation, and also monitoring and evaluation. Now we're talking of Benue. I posit a situation whereby by now the Federal Ministry of Agriculture should have gotten some good varieties of crops that can enter the receding floats. Sweet potatoes, they can do very well. Good varieties of beans. The Institute of Agricultural Research, Sama Rosaria, has recently released some peas that are 53, 54, that are of very high yielding variety. So by now I was thinking the Federal Ministry of Agriculture should have gotten all these seeds in stock. So that as the Benue farmers are in the refugee camps or wherever they are, and then the farms are receding, you now call them quickly back, let them begin to plant these things with immediate effect. And that is going to ameliorate their lives and also increase the food situation. But if, as we are talking now, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, I'm sorry, has not moved into Benue State with such a proactive arrangement, the food situation in Benue State is going to be null. And that is the truth.
The ministry, you cannot say the ministry has not moved. You can't move inside a flooded plain. This thing just happened last week. And I mentioned in my last contribution that the ministry is going to mobilize resources. Normally we have our dry season farming program, but this year definitely our dry season farming program will concentrate, will give priority to the flooded area, so that we can use the benefit of the receding water to do our dry season farming. We have offices in all the states of the federation. We are going to mobilize them, and those farmers from the IDP camp they will go for another.
You're looking at the dry season. It just made mention of what could have been done. Way of research. Floods do happen. These are natural occurrences, and there are forecasts to actually pre-warn you or warn the nation about that. What did the ministry do in that regard?
As far as agriculture is concerned, the issue of drainage and provision of drainage is not within the statutory responsibility of the Ministry of Agriculture. What concerns is planting of food and making sure that farmers get remunerated prices. But just as I've just told you, that you cannot start planting inside water until when the flood recedes. Then the land you have, that's where you're going to do your planting, and it's going to be immediate. I don't think I'm just talking about our normal program is dry season program. But now that we have this flood, immediately the water recedes, this farmer have to replant their areas.
All right, that's Greek engineer Shehu Tijani Bello, acting director, Food and Strategic Reserve, Federal Ministry of Agriculture. We'd like to appreciate your being with us on the program this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll have another guest join us, and then we'll continue with the conversation.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
I don't come out my hand from oil bunkering. General, what you gonna yarn? What did the yarn say? I don't understand though. Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants say, you know good. Me, I not do again Sam. Because why? Change begins with me. General, don't move!
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. We're taking a look at food security in Nigeria as part of our conversation today. Is a two-part discussion. Now we have reactions coming from our viewers. We'll quickly run through them and we'll continue with the guest on set. Sani Michael Omakoji says we have the capacity to attain food sufficiency in Nigeria, but we are not there yet. Therefore, it's an irony to export raw food.
Hassan Labran tweets, the federal government should, as a matter of interest, go into agric mechanization as well as make agricultural inputs available and affordable.
Hassan Labran says the government should establish reliable transportation and communication network between rural and urban settlements to ease movement of goods.
Dele Jack Solomon, we can have food sufficiency for internal consumption and export if we assist our local farmers. Reducing poverty, increasing food sufficiency and incomes, and improving nutrition as well as building household resilience to external shocks lie on improved agriculture.
From Awosli Uduba is this tweet. He believes the government should commit all their effort to the successful implementation of the Empower Agro program, as this is a way to go.
Mike Ayakwa tweets, we've made giant strides in rice production. We should leverage on this success to other agricultural produce. We must embark on mechanized agriculture and also assist local farmers.
Festus Akimboyewa has this tweet. Unfortunately for poor Nigerians, food security may not come soon because leading causes of food insecurity are showing no signs of receding. Nigeria has the agricultural potential to feed Africa, but we still can't feed ourselves because we still rely mainly on primary agriculture. This must change.
And then we have this from Shakiro. Poverty is removed when there is food sufficiency.
Suleiman Babagana says Bank of Agriculture should be strengthened to deliver on the people's mandate of food sufficiency.
Abdul Razak Musa Usman tweets, our major hitch with regard to food security is lack of adequate fertilizer.
Sakiru has a tweet, until when the government solve the problem of flood, herdsmen, and encourage the people on importance of agriculture.
And then we have this also from Husseini Danjuma. Now, the best way for food security is for Nigeria to go into irrigation farming.
Festus Akimboyewa has another tweet. It says, focus on oil destroyed our agricultural sector. Government should work with the private sector to improve our food processing techniques to avoid food wastages.
Hosseini Danjuma, the main reason for the high cost of food commodities is the high cost of agricultural inputs such as herbicides, insecticides, and fertilizers. All right, now those are the first set of tweets that we are taking this morning with regard to our conversation. Let's at this time welcome another guest who's joining us. We've had him previously on Good Morning Nigeria. Professor Bolagade Ayola. Professor Ayola is President, Farm and Infrastructure Foundation, also Chair of Voices for Food Security, and member Nigeria Zero Hunger Forum. Professor Ayola, a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
Zero hunger means food security, obviously. It's contaminants for food security.
Correct.
From your perspective, in terms of economic indices, in terms of environmental occurrences, where do we stand on the plane with regard to food security?
Nigeria is not food secure, simply because of so many things that participants have said. There is seeming availability, but affordability is very poor, and that translates into poor accessibility. Therefore, we cannot say Nigeria is comfortable in terms of food security. In measurement terms, we have many people in this country, not less than 50%, who are food insecure in the sense that they go to bed hungry almost on a daily basis. We have children that are underweight. We have children that are malnourished. We have children that their anthropometric measures are below the standard internationally. Therefore, there is plenty of evidence here and there about food security not being there in Nigeria yet.
What, from your perspective, is the likely impact of some environmental occurrences such as the flooding that we have seen, and then you go to the northeast, you observe that the consequences of insurgency, and of course you go to some parts of the south, as we indicated earlier, you have conflicts involving farmers and pastoralists.
Yes, those aspects of food insecurity problem are the complications. There is wound before complications. A wound on its own could heal by primary intention. But when complications arise in terms of tetanus, in terms of all other external features that can make the consequence of a wound more and more severe, then we are in a serious problem. So the issues at the northeast, the issues of environmental discontinuities like flood and so on, they are mere complications. But fundamentally, Nigerian situation depicts one of a wound, in the sense that the agricultural policy landscape is not strong enough to support the food system in the way that will make the food system secure enough. What do I mean? The government plays a major role. If we look at the analysis thus far this morning, one major fact comes out, that the market is not right. The market system is where price is determined, food price in this instance. And to say that food prices are generally high, therefore affecting accessibility, means that something is wrong in the market. And the role of government generally, more than any other role, is policy intervention in the market. Therefore, government is not getting its policy intervention frameworks right enough.
But there was this presidential task force on food security with the terms of reference to actually recommend the way to stem the tide of hiking price. What is happening with that intervention?
What is happening generally is that the approach is wrong. The approach to food policy management is wrong. The approach we have adopted till now relies on the notion of policy intervention in the food market on the basis of need, as if government is doing people a favor by helping to meet their need. That is a passive approach to policy formulation and implementation. The proper approach would have been the notion of food as a right of the people. If it is a right of the people and is held as such, then people have the duty to ask questions when policy environment is not right for them. People have the duty to take government up, to challenge government, and therefore put government on its toes, make government more food accountable, policy accountable, and transparent. Therefore, in such a situation, the food system is dynamic. It's not only one way, and food security will be enhanced.
So Professor Yoda, yeah, thanks. Let's get a reaction of Professor Abagambo to what he said. You agree or you disagree?
No, Kingsley, he's my teacher. I wouldn't say I disagree. But then I just want to make a little comment. I happen to be a member of the Presidential Committee on Food Security. And then at that meeting, the Vice President is our chairman. We dissected all the problems of agriculture. And then we now came to the conclusion that there has to be immediate short-term plans, medium-term and long-term. The first one we took was, how do you now move food? There are areas where you have massive supply, massive production, and then there are areas also where you have massive need. So how do you now link up? When we looked at the roads, if a truck, for example, is supposed to leave Maiduguri before with dried fish to move to Lagos, there are about 53 different checkpoints on the road. 53. Tomatoes from Kano to Lagos or to Port Harcourt is the same thing. So all these checkpoints, the drivers has to pay, and that hikes the prices. And another thing, the roads are not good enough. So the Vice President said, what about the rail system? And now the major plan is, let us use the rail system, because the rails have already started. Let's begin the movement of food. And I'm glad to tell you that already in Katsina State, food is being moved by rail to the south, and similarly from the south, certain things that are not found in the north are also being moved. We are looking at that committee at the possibility of the rail system all over, and you know the rail is working. Now that is just for the point of the committee. But then the issue is, policy making is one thing. Policy implementation is another thing. You stay and make the policy, excellent policies. The implementers are somewhere else. The Council of Agriculture meets only once a year. Blessing, once a year. Market women, they meet on weekly basis. Political parties, they meet. Governors Forum, they meet on monthly basis. You understand?
Yeah, usually in Abuja.
Really? So now we're looking at a situation whereby for you to know the problems of the states, you have to bring the commissioners and the stakeholders in the states. Alpha members. So the National Council has to be shifted maybe quarterly. So exactly.
Food is being taken daily.
Really,
okay, Professor Gambo, if you would not ask your teacher the right questions, I'm sure the farmers will want to do more to actually feed the nation. What kind of questions are the farmers pushing forward in terms of the problems that are on hand?
It's a right of them. First of all, we are Nigerians. We understand and sympathize with implementation, but we say to the hearing of everyone that allow the farmers to be part of the implementation. Let us know every part of the way, hands-on what you are doing, and let us be able to broadcast what you are doing. Unless you do that, at least now, we said it at the launch of the Green Alternative, that you have had policies from OFN to now. All of them were implemented by the various arms of government. No farmers were involved. Now that the focus is for agriculture to be an alternative to oil, and for that to work, the farmer should be part of driving that policy. Whereupon, as Prof. Gambo said, that the Council on Agriculture meets only once
a year,
and we make presentations, the farmers make presentations and all that, and then we go off till the following year. Implementation of that budget will take that whole year, and whatever we seek will only be brought to the notice of the implementers at the end, whether they do it right or wrong. And then we start blaming people, and when any forum you get to, you tend to criticize government, and the government is, we are government. These people are not any different. They just find themselves in those seats at a time, and we could also occupy those seats. But the thing is that for us to be able to get good results, we must put those people who are directly affected in doing what it is. Take what we are doing today. I'm sure you didn't call some mechanics from the workshops to come and talk about this. You called us. You have been calling me. I'm an NGO. I don't have anything with government or something, but I come here and I say my own say. The people who do whatever, it helps agriculture listen, and sometimes they take what I say. But if I am asked to implement, will I come here and remind anybody?
All right.
I will simply continue.
I'm wondering, Professor Ayola, although we are discussing, one question that is agitating a number of persons would be, do we have a strategic approach to food security in Nigeria? And if we do, how well are we also doing with regard to the implementation of that strategic approach through the national and subnational governments? So that, assuming there were some major national catastrophe, we would say we won't go hungry. Can we assert that?
We can't. There are so many strategies in place. the strategies to improve production through subsidy on fertilizer, input distribution, the strategies to further improve productivity through the use of modern inputs, the strategy, even the strategic supply strategy, whereby if there is a sudden hunger in a region, people should move in with reserves and so on. There are so many strategies. Strategies are offshoots of policy making. They are the instruments that you use to deliver your policy objectives. Therefore, strategies in themselves are derivatives of some thoughts that are taking place. The point I was making earlier is that the best strategy is to adopt the rights approach. If you listen to the president of AFAN, the involvement of the farmers themselves is key. But how can we achieve that involvement? He said decades after decades, they have not been involved. They are not participating enough. That points to the fact that they are passive on the other side of policy. They are takers. And there is somebody who is giving policy, strategies, policy, and so on. How can we engender greater participation of the farm population? Unless we impart the notion of that system as a right on the people, that we excite them and make them participate more fully, we cannot achieve that. So if we want to make a difference, and the Green Alternative is very explicit about that, if you read it, that one of the incremental contributions of this administration to strategy making is to introduce and implement all strategies within the context of food as a right of the people, so that the government themselves can be challenged, can be propelled in the direction that people want it to be. Otherwise,
how do you address the jurisprudential issue of justiciability of food as a right? In other words, food is a right, and if I don't get to feed, how do I assert my right, or how do I seek to enforce my right?
The popular mistake is that many people think when we say food as a right, we mean that government should establish farm or buy food and begin to feed people. That is not exactly what it is not. What it is that it brings about a series of obligations that government should perform as a matter of duty. The obligation to respect that right is the starting point. So that in all the strategy formulations, it will be entrenched there very popularly that government respects the right of the people. And there are so many things that can be achieved under that obligation. Next, obligation to protect that right. So that what people are doing, private sector and public sector themselves, to violate the rights of the people, to prevent them from meeting their food entitlements, government is under obligation to prevent them from being exposed to such. That is protection. And the last one is where people look at the obligation of government to move food when necessary, to address food scarcity situations, and that is the obligation to fulfill. It's not general, it's not continuous. It is only in times of socio-economic discontinuities like we're having in the Northeast, and that is why government is doing its duty by moving food at all costs with international assistance and so on to a region that is food scarce. Those are the obligations, and it's not always. So we should not look at it as a matter of people going to court if they don't give me food. It doesn't occur anywhere in the world. There are instruments that can be used to help people meet their food entitlements.
What kind of instruments are we looking at quickly, because we must round up this conversation now? We're taking a look at another topic. Okay. What kind of instruments are on ground to actually pursue this right and make sure that food is secured for Nigeria?
Heavy social investment in food is one out of many that can be used to impact that right on the people. Social investment in some of the things we are seeing now focus on feeding the children well, not just eating well, eggs, protein sources, and so on and so forth. Supplying supplementary items for food, helping people who cannot meet their daily food needs to have purchasing power, like Empower and so on and so forth that we are witnessing now. Those are the things that will be reinforced, because food security is a special item on the agenda of government business.
Professor Ayola, thank you very much. Gentlemen, I'm trying to recall if we had the president of All Farmers Association on that program. It was sometime last year. We had a miller, I think the MD of flour mills, join us from Lagos. I'm saying this with regard to affordability. Architect Ibrahim says, listen, agric is a business, I'm happy and my members are happy when we get good prices. There was some caution that, look, yes, if farmers get good prices for their produce, watch out for the knock-on effect. If we, the flour millers, get this, the price of bread and other confectionery might go up. Professor Ayola says there's some market disequilibrium, that policy is not fixing the market right. Professor Gambo, are we, in a sense, mismanaging the market, paying heavy prices, or paying a high price rather, to farmers for their produce, and at the end complaining about the high cost of food? Ultimately, how do we reconcile this? What is required to be done? I mean, pay workers their salaries X, Y, Z, but are farmers getting too much? For us, the end consumers, now to also be paying too much?
The agricultural market is fluid in the sense that it can change anytime. Now, the farmers in Nigeria are heavily shortchanged, and everybody knows that, the middlemen, etc. You're talking of the millers. I'm happy whenever we're talking about maize, for example. The poultry subsector has done so well by producing so many chicks and then eggs that Nigerians can afford. That's a good plus. But then where do they get the feed? The feed has to come from the maize. Where does the maize come from? As I'm talking to you now, most of the feed we have in Nigeria are being formulated with imported maize. Afan knows, right now at the shows of Apapa WAF, you have about 40 ships with maize that is supposed to be imported into the country. On one hand, you're telling the farmer produce more so that we will buy, and then invariably somebody is now giving waivers to some people to bring in the same product you're asking the farmer to do. It's the same thing with the rice. You still go to the market, you see the foreign rice. So when we started the rice issue, we said everybody should go to farm. Farmers produce rice all over, but then you are still importing the rice. So we now have to get the issue of the commodity board is very important. A situation whereby you have an organization that will determine the price, and the price will go around all over the country. If a bag of maize is going for 8,000 naira in Saminaka, which is a major rice zone in Kaduna, then the same bag of rice should go for same 8,000 naira at the market in Lagos, Port Harcourt, etc. So the commodity boards have to come in. And still, Kingsley, there is another big thing. You know, you have to bring in the private sectors in between. The private sector is just not a kind of government farmers affair. The private sectors must come in. How do you mop up? What are the incentives that are to be given? How do you obtain a single-digit credit loan scheme to the farmers? How do they get the chemicals? How do they get the fertilizers? All these things are very important, and they are the indicators folks were talking about. Those indicators have to be on ground. But the situation now is so daring. Two sectors of the economy, agricultural subsector, are trying. I mentioned the poultry, the horticultural sector. You go to the market, the fruits and vegetables are all over there. The horticulturists are trying, the poultry farmers are trying. But then the other things is you have to stop the importation of those things we're talking about. We're producing so many fruits, no processing plants. You go all over the country, you see plenty of fruits, oranges, mangoes everywhere. They are all getting rotten. From the horticultural subsector, the post-harvest loss per annum is about 59%, telling you that out of every 100 oranges produced, 59 is gone. waste.
Professor Ayola, how do you deal with this market distortion?
Yes, the market, I describe the market as the center of a football field, where the two sides, once you are weak in that center, you will be seeing goals at the other end. If the market is properly fixed, its job will be well performed. And what is that job? Equilibrating the demand side with the supply side in order to determine a fair price mechanism that will rule on both sides. Having said that, the critical instruments for achieving such things are market infrastructure. Heavy investment in market infrastructure, rural road networks, rural borrow programs, and such other things that will make the market to function frictionlessly. That is key, and we are not witnessing it. Two is proper organization of the market. Professor Gambo mentioned the need for marketing boards, not necessarily marketing boards, but a market institution that will perform this role very well. There are rough edges in any institution you bring about, but we must continue to run it and smoothen these rough edges until we get there. Market is key, and that is where the right price can be struck that will make both the farmers happy and also the consumers happy.
All right, Professor Yola, thanks a lot. We've been hearing for many years about commodity exchange. Not much, of course, has taken off without respect. Second set of tweets that we are taking, Rumen tweets. True, food is available, but no money. Workers have not been paid for over 3 months. How are they expected to feed? Food security for citizens should be the #1 priority of the Nigerian government, but all they do is talk, and no life impact.
From Olaiwola Musbao, this tweet, NYSC should be used to train Nigerian youth about agriculture. After the service year, government should provide incentives to set them up.
Suleiman Babagana tweets, now to AFAN, this is All Farmers Association of Nigeria, the issue of how loans from government, how loans are sometimes given to whom in the long run, who use it to engage in agricultural ventures, that's a big one.
From Hussaini Danjuma, this is substitute to firewood must be made available and affordable to stop vegetation destruction for us to achieve food security.
And we have this from Google Amokahal. It says discussions like this are good, but focus has to be on moving from using hoes to at least semi-mechanized agriculture. Of course, we've discussed this on a number of occasions on this program.
Here's a tweet from Wusu Matthew. It says Nigeria has capacity to use agriculture to generate enough income, but government is not doing enough. What happened to farm settlements?
Festus Akimboyewa again tweets, today between 14,000 and 15,000 babies will be added to our growing population, and they have to eat. Government should declare an emergency in the agri sector.
Another tweet from Dele Jack Solomon this morning. We must fight climate change and stop pollution of arable lands in Nigeria. Stop oil spillages in the Niger Delta and stop terrorists in the north.
All right, these are some of the tweets that we have for our second set. We'd like to appreciate our guest from our right there, Architect Kabir Ibrahim, President of Farmers Association of Nigeria. Always a delight having you on the Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you
for being here. And also appreciation to Professor Bolagade Ayola. Of course, he's the founder of Farm and Infrastructure Foundation, as well as a member of Nigeria's Zero Hunger Forum. Professor Ayola, thanks for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
An agricultural consultant, also Professor Abba Gambo. As I said, poor advertisement for the looks in the Northeast. Thank you very much, Professor Gambo. Thank you for your insight.
Thank you very much, Casey. Thank you.
All right, so that does it for our discussion segment. Let's go over now to sports.
Nigeria Super Eagles looks favourite to book a place in Russia 2018. The senior men national team presently is at the top of Group B in FIFA World Cup qualifiers. The team led the group with 10 points, putting Zambia in second place by 3 points.
It is the way he's looking at it.
with outstanding two-leg fixtures, recording 4-0 and 1-1 against the indomitable Lions of Cameroon. The 2-1 away victory over the Chipolopolo of Zambia in Ndola, as well as 3-1 thrashing of Algeria. Nigeria have now 3 wins and a draw, scoring 10 goals and conceding just 3.
Abubakar with the penalty, and he finds the back of the net. There's the equaliser. Cameroon.
Zambia stunned Algeria 1-0 away from home on match day 4 Tuesday night to keep hopes of qualification alive. Since their home loss to Nigeria, the Zambians have rebuilt the team by ingesting several exciting players from the last Under-20 World Cup and have since been having amazing results. Though Algeria and Cameroon are now eliminated from the race, the match day 5 will see Zambia travel to Uyo to face the Super Eagles in a must-win or at least a draw to guarantee Nigeria a 6th World Cup appearance. As Nigeria hosts Zambia on October 7, head coach of the Eagles, Gernot Roy, promises that the team will not get carried away as they close in on qualification. But what should football fans in Nigeria expect from the clash against the Chipolopolo on home soil?
All right, thank you very much there for that sports package. Of course, we indicated earlier that we'll be discussing Nigeria's own qualification group, which is Group B, where we have Zambia, we have Algeria, we have Cameroon, and of course the almighty Super Eagles. We've been joined at this time by an ex-international and also is current team coordinator of the Super Eagles. He's a member of the Order of the Niger, Patrick Pascal. Patrick, a pleasure that you're with us on the program this morning.
Good morning.
All right, so how we stand? 10 points, and Zambia close on our heels, 7 points. We had thought that perhaps would have been more comfortable. What is the outlook like for our qualification 2018 World Cup?
Yeah, well, at times, you know, your calculation in football, 2 plus 2 can give you 30. Yeah, and at times it can minus itself. So what we are hoping, you understand, yesterday is as in for Algeria to win their match, but unfortunately Zambia won the match there. But now all what we are praying is as in for us, you understand, not to lose a match against Zambia. It will not be funny for us.
Is it a matter of prayer, also a matter of strategy? I mean, Nigerians were quite excited
last Friday.
The superlative performance. 4 unreplied goals against our, almost eternal soccer rivals, Cameroon.
Yeah, but you can see the caliber of players. You understand that the coach invited to for against Cameroon, and then Mikel Obi, Moses, Leon Balogun, they did not come the match that we played against South Africa. But they came down, you understand, and then they put a very good performance on that day.
But for Monday's outing, it was as if there was this overconfidence and some other different pattern from what's superlative action that was given on Friday. I don't know, those were some of pundits' reaction. What actually happened to us on Monday?
Yeah, on Monday, it's not like maybe it's overconfidence, You see, we want a point. We want to make sure that we even seal the game in Cameroon. And then let me tell you something. The coach there, earlier said he said that he is playing for honor. He want to protect his name, and the name of the country. So like us too, we want to get the point there. But the players, if you check the match very well, I tell you, the Cameroonians, they don't want even to lose a match against us. They believe they are the African champion, so they want to win that match to protect even their name, because it's not easy, for you to become an African champion and then to lose a match just like that. They lost 4-0 here, and then there we beat them. You understand? It's how, the ranking. Some other countries are playing now for ranking, to just be part of that ranking, because if you are not part of that ranking, you understand, I think, every time your sponsorship and other things, you understand, will go down.
Looking at Zambia's being close to Nigerians' heels, so to use the word now, what exactly should we be doing differently, part of strategy, to still secure a place come 2018?
Yeah, I think the only thing that we will be doing now, is as in to add more, effort. And all our players, they know what it takes, you understand, to be in World Cup. And World Cup is the biggest competition, for them. And some of them, this is the only chance they have, because of maybe another World Cup, age will catch them and other things. So for now, you understand, we have to put, and then we have to concentrate, you understand, like this is a new match for us, you understand, against Zambia. It's for us to come all out, we will not leave anything. I tell you, yesterday we watched the match, we are not happy. But I tell as I earlier said, 2 + 2 in football, you understand, can minus itself and can plus itself.
Depending on the base that you use, if it's base 2, base 10, base 12. But I'm just wondering, again, for the benefit of some of our viewers, how many points are left now for the two contenders? Because technically, Cameroon and Algeria are out of contention. So how many points are now on offer between Nigeria and Zambia to scramble for and then get a ticket?
6 points. You understand? And then now, if we are leading now with 3 points. If we play draw, you understand, it's okay for us. We go now with 4 points. And then remaining 1 match. And then the other last match, if we lost our match, we are not playing. You understand, against Algeria, and then they won their match against Cameroon, you understand, they have what? 10 points. And we will go with 11 points. But the only thing is, as in for us, we don't need to lose that much. Draw, you understand, and then winning is very good.
Don't lose it, don't take draw soup, so we won't have a draw.
I was just wondering, I mean, Nigerians, again, we haven't seen the Super Eagles, the kind of performance that we saw last Friday.
Yeah.
The team spirit, and the performance of the players, and it was like you actually see them on a true international stage. Is this sustainable?
Yeah, you see, this crop of players that we have now, I tell you, we have to believe in them. And then the camp performance they put against Cameroon is wonderful. And then even the Uyo government, you understand, they supported us a lot. And then the people there, they've been doing very, very good. They accommodate us very
Still
well.
looking at performance of players, one of the concerns is that of the goalkeeper, and that's Ikechukwu. Its performance on both legs. What else do we need to see to actually get him better form?
Yeah, for us now, we have no choice. That's the only choice we have. And then if you can see, he is our Chan goalkeeper, you understand, and the captain of the Chan home-based players. So for him getting that advantage, you have to start from somewhere. Or to start even from World Cup qualifier is not easy. But for him putting up that performance, 2 matches, you understand, we grabbed 4 points. You understand, we have to say he has done very well.
He was pretty close to also stopping the penalty if he had not left his spot.
Yeah, it's always like that.
I was just wondering, part of what we have seen over the years, the Eagles are doing well now, and you have all kinds of interests, marketers, potential sponsors. They want to push in their players, they want to push in their own candidates so that they can go to the World Cup ultimately, and before you know it, the team begins to have crisis. I mean, you've been in the system.
Yeah.
That's why I was talking about sustainability. Do you have a sufficient buffer, as it were, against needless interference and intrusion into this team that you have? The next match is sometime next month, I believe, in October.
Yeah, yes. October. So
what can be done?
Yeah, now even the federation, you understand, they don't put hand, you understand, as in selection of the players for the coach. So that's one good, very important thing. You understand, if you give the coach a free hand, you understand, to select the players that he wants, it's only for the federation to see the list of the players, you understand, and go through. This player, is it injured? Is it okay? They communicate with the technical department, they communicate very good with the coach. And for now, you understand, we don't have that problem.
All right.
International? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's national award recipient Patrick Pascal, also played for the national team. MON, we'd like to appreciate.
I'm sure he has the EY attached to it.
Yeah, he's still looking for the EY. So, Patrick Pascal, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Let's go over to the weather center and check out the weather prospects for the rest of today.
It's a pleasure to have you on the weather forecast for Wednesday. Now let's take a look at the highlights. We expect relatively stable conditions in cloudy atmosphere over most places on Wednesday morning. With the exception of parts of Makurdi, Abuja axis, where some late morning showers are expected. In the afternoon, we expect more inclement weather to affect in the northeast, areas around Maiduguri, Gombe Bauchi axis, the Mambila Plateau, and also part of Kaduna, Kano axis could also see some isolated thunderstorms. Also, there could be some late episode of thunderstorms over part of Guzau and Yawe axis. While around the southern half of the country, we expect mostly scattered rain showers to affect most places, notably areas around the southeast coast and the inland of the southwest. Now, do stay tuned for the temperature forecast.
That's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Let's do it again tomorrow, 7 in the morning. We hope to catch you then. Bye for now. My name is Blessing Abu. Do have yourself a great day.
And Kingsley Osadolo, thank you for being with us too. Enjoy the rest of your day. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning.